Today I received a deep spiritual message about delivering painful news, speaking words that break you each time you say them, yet being gently reminded that your pain was seen and you were never alone. Let's explore this. This section describes how a simple digital moment becomes a divine appointment, with God confirming that He was present during your hardest, most isolating trials.
Don't skip. Don't move to the next thing, because what God has sent through this message today is not for everyone. It is for you, specifically, personally, deliberately. You were guided here. You did not find this by accident. Something moved your hand, stilled your thumb, and brought you to this exact moment. And if you will stay, if you will hold on until the very end, something is going to shift inside you today that has been locked for a very long time. Because God sees what you did. He saw every phone call you had to make, the ones where your voice broke before you even finished saying hello, the ones where you had to find words impossible, unbearable words, and speak them into a phone while your whole body shook and the world felt like it was ending around you. Those calls. God says, I was in the room with you. I heard every syllable. I watched your hands tremble. I saw you hold yourself together just long enough to get through it, and then fall apart the moment the line went quiet. Heaven wept with you. That is not poetry. That is a divine declaration. The hosts of heaven bowed their heads the day your world was shattered, and they have not looked away from you since. Don't skip this. What comes next is something God has been waiting to say to you for a very long time.
This section captures the unbearable weight and unique loneliness of having to be the one to break the bad news to others, forcing you to remain strong while your own world was ending.
Let me describe what you carried during those days, because I want you to know that something greater than this world understands the weight of it exactly. You made those calls, one by one. You held the phone, and you dialed the numbers of people who still lived in a world where everything was fine, where the person you loved was still alive, still breathing, still a name spoken in the present tense, and you had to be the one to end that world for them. You had to say the words. You had to hear the silence on the other end of the line before the crying started. You had to say it again, and again, and again. Each time the words came out of your mouth, something tore away from you. Nobody talks about that. Nobody tells you that making those phone calls is one of the loneliest acts a human being can perform. You were grieving, your whole soul was already on the floor, and yet you had to hold yourself upright long enough to deliver the news. You had to be strong for people who hadn't even had time to feel it yet.
This section vividly details the moment the silence settled in, when the calls were over and you were left totally alone, forcing you to find the spiritual strength to set a new marker in your journey.
Pay close attention, because God says He saw the exact moment you hung up after the last call. He saw you sit there in the silence. Maybe you were in the kitchen. Maybe you were in the hallway. Maybe you were sitting in the car in the driveway because you couldn't go back inside yet. And no one came to sit with you. No one called back to ask how you were holding up. The calls had gone out. The news had been delivered, and you were alone with what had just happened. He saw you check the clock and realized that the world was still moving, that traffic was still passing outside, that somewhere a television was still on, that the refrigerator was still humming as if nothing had changed, as if the person you loved had not just left this earth. Type, God saw my tears in the comments right now. Let heaven know you are here. Let this be the first marker you set in the spiritual realm today. There are people battling silent storms who will never walk into a church, but they will click on a message like this. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, you help us meet them there. You help us speak truth where confusion reigns. You help us proclaim Christ where compromise has grown loud. This isn't about sustaining a platform. It's about standing in the gap for someone eternity-bound. Your seed becomes truth for the deceived, strength for the weary, invitation for the lost. And while we may never know every name this side of heaven, God does. If you've ever prayed, Lord, use me, this is one way He does. Join the mission. Let's carry the gospel further together.
This section reveals that God was not a distant observer, but an active recorder, keeping a sacred testimony of every trembling word, broken breath, and performed smile you offered.
God says He watched you wash your face before other people arrived. He watched you arrange your expression into something that could be read as coping. He watched you make tea and answer questions and nod at things people said, all while a part of you was sitting somewhere else, entirely somewhere no one else could reach. And He says, I reached you there, even in that unreachable place. I was with you there. Don't move. Because what God is about to reveal about what He was doing in those moments behind the scenes, beyond what your eyes could see, is something that is going to change the way you understand everything that happened. Here is what you could not see on the day you made those calls. Here is what was happening in the spiritual realm. While your voice was breaking and your hands were shaking and the world was crashing around you, God was recording it. Every word, every silence, every breath you had to take in the middle of a sentence, because the grief was too big to speak through. He was collecting it all not as evidence against you, not as a record of your pain to be forgotten, but as a testimony, a sacred account of what you endured and how you endured it. You're about to find out something very important. The person you lost, God says they watched those calls too, from the other side of the veil, from a place of perfect peace and complete understanding. They watched you carry what they could no longer carry for themselves, and they have been asking God, interceding, if you will, to let you know that they saw it. They saw what you did. They saw the strength it took, and they are not silent about it in heaven.
This section introduces a powerful change, a divine stirring in the hearts of those who received your calls, a spiritual reckoning where they finally begin to grasp the incredible weight you bore on their behalf.
Don't skip this, because this next part is the part that most people are afraid to receive. God is doing something right now in the hearts of the people who received those calls. Something is stirring in them that they cannot explain. A memory surfaces at unexpected moments, your voice on the phone that day, the weight of what you had to tell them, the steadiness you held even when you were falling apart. They are thinking about you, not with pity, with something closer to awe, with the dawning recognition that you bore something on behalf of everyone else, that you were the one who had to carry the news into the world, and that they never properly acknowledged what that cost you. God says a reckoning is beginning, a divine stirring. The people around you, the ones who received those calls, the ones who went quiet afterward, the ones who got absorbed back into their own lives while you were left to navigate the aftermath alone, they are beginning to feel the weight of what you shouldered. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in quiet moments, in the middle of ordinary days. Something taps them on the shoulder and says, "You never asked how she was doing. You never called back to check on him." Type, "Heaven is moving on my behalf," in the comments. if you feel this truth beginning to settle into your spirit. And God says this reckoning is not punishment, it is not vengeance, it is love, the same love that was present in that room when you made those calls, working its way outward through every person who was touched by your loss. Because grief, when it is carried with the kind of grace you carried it with, does not stay contained. It radiates. It changes people, and the change is only now beginning to reach the ones who should have reached back to you.
This section exposes the discomfort of those who disappeared after the news, revealing that God is actively preventing them from resting in comfortable lies, making the ordinary moments of their lives unbearable until they reach out.
Something very big is coming your way. Hold on. Let me tell you what is happening right now in the life of the person who should have shown up for you and didn't. The one who received your call, said the right things in the moment and then disappeared back into their life. The one who never checked in. The one who let the weeks become months without a word. Don't skip, because this is the part that most people scroll past, but it is where the breakthrough begins. They are not sleeping well. They haven't told anyone that. They wouldn't know how to explain it, that there is a low hum of unease that follows them through their days, that they find themselves thinking of you at strange moments, that they pick up their phone sometimes and look at your name and put it back down. Pride, fear, the shame of knowing too much time has passed. They tell themselves they'll reach out tomorrow. They tell themselves you're probably fine. They tell themselves the distance is mutual, but God is not letting them rest in that comfortable lie. Because something happened recently. Maybe it was a song that came on in the car, the kind of song that was playing in the background of some ordinary moment with a person you lost. Maybe it was a smell in a grocery store, something inexplicably familiar. Something that stopped them cold in the middle of an aisle. Maybe it was a date on a calendar. Maybe it was nothing they can name, just a sudden, overwhelming weight that settled on them and would not lift. Their thumb hovered over your name in their phone for a long moment. Their heart was doing something their mind wouldn't let them follow through on, and they put the phone down, and the weight got heavier. God says, I put that weight there. I am the one who sent the song, who stirred the memory, who made the ordinary unbearable for just long enough that they could feel the shape of what they have been avoiding. Because what they have been avoiding is the truth that you needed them, and they were not there, not in the way that mattered, not in the sustained, showing up, keeping in touch way that grief demands from the people who love us. Type, God is working in the comments right now. Set this as your declaration for what is happening right now, even as you watch this.
This section offers a profound spiritual rehearsal, allowing you to hear the raw, honest, and healing apology that is being prepared in someone's heart right now. The words that will finally acknowledge your invisible sacrifice.
There is a specific memory God keeps returning to them. They are sitting somewhere at a desk, at a kitchen table, in a chair they have sat in 1,000 times, and the memory arrives uninvited. Your voice on the phone that day, the way you said the words, the terrible steadiness of it, the way you held together in that call while the world was ending, and something in them recognizes maybe for the first time that you were doing something extraordinary, that you were doing it alone, that you did it for them in a way, because they didn't have to say those words, didn't have to be the first one to speak them into the air, because you were the one who did it, and they are beginning to feel the full weight of what they owe you, not a debt of obligation, a debt of love. The recognition that someone bore something on your behalf and you never said thank you, never said, that must have been unbearable, never said, how are you really even now? Don't move. Because God is not finished with what He is doing in their heart, and He is not finished with what He is about to pour into yours. God says this moment is coming, and because He wants you to be ready to receive it, He is going to speak the words through this message right now, the words that are being prepared in someone's heart, even as you listen to this, the words they will one day find the courage to say to you. Pay close attention. Receive these words into your spirit as if they are already being spoken. They will say, I don't know how to start this. I've started it 100 times and deleted it. But I keep thinking about that day. I keep thinking about the phone call. I keep thinking about what it must have taken to make that call, not just once but over and over again, while you were the one who had just lost everything. And I never asked you. I never called back the next week and said, how are you? I never sat with what you were going through. I got the news and I went back to my life and I told myself you were strong, that you were handling it, that you didn't need me to check in. I told myself that because it was easier than facing the fact that I didn't know what to say. They will say, I'm sorry. I am so sorry that I left you to carry that alone. Don't skip. Because this next part is the part that goes deeper. They will say, I've been thinking about all the things you did that I never acknowledged. Not just that day, all of it. Everything you managed while you were breaking. Everything you arranged and handled and communicated and organized while grief was sitting on your chest. You did all of that for the rest of us. You made it easier for everyone else. And we never stood up in the middle of all of it and said, we see you. We see what this is costing you. They will say, I'm scared I waited too long. I pick up the phone and I put it down because I think, what if she doesn't want to hear from me now? What if too much time has passed? What if he's moved on and doesn't need this anymore? And then I realize that those thoughts are about me, not about you, that I'm still making it about my comfort. And something in me, something I think is bigger than me, keeps saying, call, just call, just say the words, just let them know you haven't forgotten. Type, I receive this, in the comments right now. Type it as a declaration that your spirit is open to receive what God is pouring out in this moment.
This section defines a holy haunting, where God uses specific, inescapable memories, a voice, a sound, the look of hands, to dismantle the pride and distance of those who should have stood with you.
Revival doesn't spread by accident. It spreads because believers decide to act. If this message stirred something in you, imagine what it could do for someone who has never heard truth spoken with clarity. When you give through the link below, whether once or as an ongoing partner, you help send the gospel beyond this moment. You become part of every testimony, part of every restored heart, part of every soul that turns back to Christ. Your generosity turns sermons into lifelines and videos into divine appointments. Scripture tells us that some plant, some water, but God brings the increase. Today you can be the one who plants. If you believe souls matter, this is your opportunity to move from agreement to action. Let's reach them while there is still time. God says He is collecting every fragment of your broken heart, every piece that shattered in those phone calls, every piece that broke off in the silence that followed, every piece that has been scattered across the month since then. And He is reassembling it, not into the shape it was before, into something stronger, into something that has been through fire and is still standing. He says, I have not lost a single piece. I know where every fragment is, and the restoration is already underway. Something very big is coming your way. Don't stop watching. God wants to sit with you here for a moment. Before we go any further, before we move into what He has prepared for your future, He wants to acknowledge something that the world has not given you space to say. The grief you are carrying has no proper name. There are words for the loss itself, but there are no words that fully describe what it is to be the one who made those calls, to be the bearer of the news, to be the one who translated the unsurvivable into language and spoke it into other people's lives, one phone call at a time. The world does not have a ceremony for that. There is no ritual for the one who had to do what you did. Everyone gathered around the loss. No one gathered around the person who had to announce it. Don't skip this. This is the part that was written for you specifically. God says He saw you eat alone, not just once. On the ordinary Tuesdays after the funeral was over and the flowers had wilted and the casseroles had stopped coming and everyone had gone back to their lives. He saw you sit at a table that was built for more people than were there. He saw you eat in silence. He says, I was sitting across from you. You could not see me, but I was there. And the meal you ate in that silence was sacred to me, because you kept going, because you sat down and you fed yourself and you kept living, even when living felt like the hardest possible thing to do. He saw you smile at church when you were breaking inside. He saw you say, I'm fine, to people who asked and who needed you to be fine because they didn't have room for you not to be. He saw you perform okayness for everyone around you because the alternative, the truth, felt like too great a burden to place on anyone else. He saw every moment where you held it together in public and then fell apart in the car or in the bathroom or in the very late hours of nights when the silence of the house became unbearable. Type, God sees me, in the comments, not for anyone else, for yourself, as an act of receiving this truth into the deepest part of who you are.
This section provides the visual of the long-awaited turning point, the literal moment the knock on the door comes, releasing a wave of physical and spiritual healing as the burden is finally shared.
And God says this to you now, clearly, without condition: you did not go wrong. What happened was not your failure. You did not do this wrong. You did not grieve wrong. You did not reach out too much or too little. You did not say the wrong things or fail to say the right things. You were a human being in the middle of an impossible season, and you moved through it with more grace than you have ever given yourself credit for. This is where God wants you to subscribe, not to a channel, but to the truth that He is speaking over your life right now. When you press that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, you are telling heaven, I am committed to receiving every word God sends to me. I am not closing myself off. I am staying open, and that act of staying open is itself a declaration of faith. God is now doing something that the Bible calls a holy haunting. He is filling the ordinary moments of the people in your life with reminders of you, a song, a smell, a color, a phrase that someone says that sounds exactly like something you used to say, a grandchild who does something with their hands the way you do. These are not coincidences. These are divine interruptions. God is deliberately, lovingly, relentlessly reminding the people around you that you exist, that you matter, that you have not been seen the way you should have been seen, and He is not stopping until someone does something about it. Don't skip, because what comes next is the specific memories He is using to do it. God is sending these memories to the people who need to remember, one by one, in quiet moments, in the way that only divine timing can arrange. The first memory is your voice, not the voice on the phone that day, a different voice, an earlier voice, the voice you used in ordinary, unhurried moments, the way you said someone's name when you were happy to see them, the particular warmth of it. Something in that memory is surfacing for someone right now who has not heard your voice in too long, and they cannot explain why they are suddenly missing it with such specific physical intensity. God sent that. Pay close attention. The second memory is your hands. What your hands looked like when they were busy doing something for someone else. Working in a kitchen maybe, or writing something down, or reaching out to touch someone who was hurting. Hands that were always in motion, always in service, always giving something. Someone is seeing those hands right now in a memory they didn't go looking for, and something in the image is making them understand, perhaps for the first time, that nobody in their life gives them that kind of quiet, unhurried care anymore. Nobody does what you did the way you did it. Don't move. The third memory is a specific day, not a holiday, those are easy to remember. An ordinary day, a drive somewhere, a conversation that didn't seem important at the time, the way the light was, the way you were relaxed and unperformed and simply yourself. Someone is being returned to that day by a force they cannot name, and they are sitting inside that memory and realizing that what felt ordinary then was actually irreplaceable, that there are no more of those days coming unless someone does something to create them, and the realization is doing something to their chest that they are struggling to breathe through. Type, "God is using my story" in the comments, because He is. Your story, the whole of it, including the hardest parts, is being used right now to wake up the people who need waking. The fourth memory is a sound. Your laugh, maybe, or the sound of you in another room, footsteps on a floor, a cupboard closing, the particular domestic sound of you existing in a space. Someone is being ambushed by that sound in a moment of silence, and the ambush is breaking something open in them that has needed to be broken open for a very long time, because grief that is not faced does not disappear. It waits, and God, in His mercy, is making it impossible to wait any longer. God says the turning point is here, not approaching. Here, in this season, in this moment that we are inhabiting together right now. Something very big is coming your way. Hold on until the end, because this is the scene that is being prepared. There will be a knock at the door, or a phone that rings, or a message that arrives that you will recognize immediately as different, not like the other knocks and rings and messages. This one will carry weight. You will feel it before you read a word or open a door. Something in you will already know. And on the other side of that knock or ring or message, there will be someone with red eyes, someone who has been working up to this moment for longer than you know, someone whose pride has been slowly and methodically dismantled by a God who loves you enough to dismantle it. Their hands may be shaking, their voice will not be steady, and what they will say will not be polished or perfect. It will be real. It will be the raw, unglamorous, genuine thing that has been sitting behind weeks or months of silence. Don't skip. This is the payoff that was promised at the beginning. Don't walk away before you receive it. They will say something close to this. "I'm sorry. I should have called. I should have shown up. I kept telling myself you were okay, because it was easier than facing the fact that I didn't know how to be there for you. And I have been carrying that. I've been carrying the weight of having let you down during the hardest season of your life, and I can't carry it anymore. So I'm here. I know it's late. I know I don't deserve your grace, but I'm here. And God says the moment of that embrace, the moment your arms go around someone who has finally come back, will release something from your body that medicine has not been able to touch. Because the grief you have been holding is not only emotional, it lives in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the place behind your eyes where the unshed tears collect. And the act of being truly received, of having someone finally see what you have been through and say, I see it, I'm sorry, I'm here, will move through you like breath after too long underwater. Stop counting days. Stop measuring the silence and calculating how long it has been and deciding whether it's been too long to hope. Start counting signs, and the signs are already here. The memories surfacing in others, the weight that won't lift for the people who should have lifted yours, the song that keeps playing, the name that keeps appearing in their minds at unexpected moments. These are previews from heaven. These are the trailers of the restoration that is already in production. Type, "My healing is happening now," in the comments. Claim it, receive it. Let your spirit agree with what God is already doing.
This section delivers the final, complete restoration, showing how your faithful, silent endurance is being converted into a legacy that will shape future generations and reclaim the years of loss and lack.
This message doesn't stop with you. It reaches the one who is still searching, still doubting, still crying out in the dark. If this ministry has strengthened your faith, consider strengthening someone else's. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, partnering monthly, or joining our Ko-fi community, you're not funding content. You're fueling the Great Commission. Every gift becomes gospel carried further. Every act of generosity pushes light into places we may never physically stand. There are people one message away from hope, one prayer away from surrender, one encounter away from salvation. Your generosity helps us reach them. This is more than support, it's participation. You're stepping into the harvest field with us. And when heaven counts the souls reached, your obedience will be written into their story. If the Spirit is prompting you, don't ignore it. Step into the work. Let's bring the lost home. But God says the restoration does not stop there. He says, I am not a God of small repairs. I do not patch and move on. I restore, fully, beyond what was lost, into something more whole than what existed before the loss. He says the blessing that is coming extends far beyond one conversation or one reunion. It extends into the generations, into the children and grandchildren who will grow up knowing your story, not the edited version, not the version that skips the hard parts, but the full version, the version that includes what you carried and how you carried it, and who you were in the middle of the impossible. They will know, and knowing will shape them. Don't skip this, because this is the part of the promise that is bigger than you. There are grandchildren, or there will be grandchildren who will sit with you in ways that restore the years of sitting alone. Who will ask about the person you lost and want to hear the stories that others have been too uncomfortable to ask about? Who will inherit the memory of someone they never met through the way you tell it? You are the keeper of the story. And God says the keeping of the story is not a burden, it is a sacred trust. And the people who receive it from you will be changed by the receiving. God says your finances are being addressed in the spiritual realm. The anxiety about provision, about what the future holds, about making ends meet in this season. He sees it. He has not ignored it. Restoration in this area is part of the covenant promise over your life, and it is being activated now. You will not lack what you need. What was lost will be restored. What was taken will be returned. The locusts' years, the years of loss and lack and grief and loneliness, are being reclaimed. Share this message right now with one person who needs to hear it. When you share, you are extending the anointing. You are saying, the blessing that is coming to me, I want it to reach someone else too. And God honors that. He multiplies what is shared. And God says something else that is perhaps the most personal thing He will say through this message today. He says you will be asked about yourself by the people who come back, by the people who return. They will ask and mean it how you are, what you need, what your days look like, what you dream about. They will see you as a full person, not as a role you played in their lives, not as a function you served. They will see you, and being seen after this long season of invisibility will be one of the most healing experiences of your remaining years on this earth. Type, "My story is not finished," in the comments right now, because it isn't. This is not the last chapter. This is the turn of the page into something new. My beloved child, we are at the end of this message, but we are at the beginning of everything God is releasing into your life. I want you to do something for me right now. Close your eyes if you are able and see the face of the person you lost, not in suffering, not in the way you saw them last. See them as they were in an ordinary golden moment, laughing at something small, doing something routine, being simply and fully themselves. See the version of them that existed before grief was part of the picture. Hold that face. Now hear this from God. What is being restored is not a body. What is being restored is a bond, a connection that death interrupted but did not sever, because love does not end where the body ends, and the love that surrounded your life before the loss is still at work in the hearts of the living, in the actions of heaven, in the slow and certain turning of every heart that received your call that day toward the recognition that you deserve to be held, seen, and honored the way you held and saw and honored everyone else. This is what God says over your life, clearly and without reservation. It is done. I have heard the cries you cried in rooms where no one else was present. I have counted every tear that fell in the silence after those phone calls. I have seen every smile you performed while breaking, and I have not let a single moment of your faithfulness go unrecorded. The accounting is complete, and what is owed to you in love, in presence, in healing, in restoration is being released. Now, in this season, in this exact chapter of your life, receive it, believe it, watch it manifest. Now I want to give you 3 things to do before you set this down. First, type in the comments, "I receive everything God has promised." Let that be your declaration. Let heaven hear it in your own words. Second, share this message with one person, one beloved, weary, grieving soul, who made calls they should never have had to make, who has been carrying the weight of the loss bearer alone. Send it to them today, not tomorrow, today, because what God poured into this message was not only for you, it was meant to multiply. And third, if you have not yet subscribed and turned on the notification, do it now, not for any earthly reason, but as an act of saying to destiny, I am committed to receiving every word that God sends. I will not close my ears. I will not turn away from the healing that is coming. The one you lost is at rest. The ones who are still here are being moved. And you who made the calls, you who bore the news, you who held the world together while your own was falling apart, you are being held now by hands that do not tire, and a love that does not run out. It is done. Receive it. Believe it. Watch it manifest. Amen.